All right, here we are, Remo. We are going to be giving tips for leaders today. These are the ideas that we live every day with Combat Ready. We're teaching our customers this. We are practicing these. And what we're going to do over the next, hour and a half, we're going to give practical tips that people can implement today of how to be a better leader and what they're working towards. So first of all, Remo, nice to see you, mate. What have you been doing earlier today?
Yeah, nice to see you too. Driving a car, giving courses, talking about leadership, leading ourselves, leading my life, solving issues all the time, everywhere. So pretty much like regular day.
Sure, every day I'm just solving issues, leading my life. Sure, we've got it all. It sounds a little bit hyperbole sometimes that we're like, this is going to help you in all aspects of your life, but it really does. It absolutely has.
It can if you actually implement it. Like if I was in the military, I didn't understand that things that I did in the military, they work in the civilian life the same way. It's just a matter of understanding that, hey, actually, these principles that work in one place very well, what if we try it in another place and see? And it's very likely that you will succeed over there as well.
It's a common thing in all of our courses that we give a course, and some people love the military example, some people don't quite get them, some people, and we're always... On every course, we're going to have a spread of people who said we had enough military examples. No, we too many. We wanted less, more, the whole thing. When I'm doing these podcasts and our courses, I'm searching for the balance because I actually think there is some value in hearing the military example and then taking the leap yourself. I actually don't want us to ever just be all business examples. Because first of all, you're military guys. That's our whole thing. That's what we do. But secondly, I think there's value in making the leap. So rather than just going, this is how a CEO does it, this is how a business example does it, I want to hear the military, because to me, the military example was always so clear cut. It was war, it was life or death, it was do this, don't do that. Where in business, so often things can be like shades of gray and we didn't quite do as well as we wanted this fiscal year. And if I can think of the military example first, then use my own noggin to apply it to my life or my examples. Of course, we're going to give you some business examples, of course, some personal examples. I think making that leap is valuable.
Yeah, I think I think the general idea behind it is that just we need to understand different perspectives. And if we understand different perspectives, we will gain a better understanding of our own knowledge because a lot of the principles that we talk about, everyone knows them. It's just a matter of putting them in the right context, in the right example, because I also give in terms of like extreme ownership, what's the best way to explain it? I would say, like if you're in school, you're in a principal's office with 4 boys and everyone knows who started the fight, but the one who actually started the fight, they don't want to admit that they were the one. So now, if one person raises their hand up and everyone knows that they didn't start it, they didn't start the fight, but he admits it and takes ownership of that, he gets the blame and he gets the punishment or whatever. But inside the team, like everyone will respect that guy because he took ownership of everything. Like he took it on his own shoulder, and that's what we expect in teams as well. And instead, if you think it the other way, like if he would now point fingers, hey, this was the guy. He started the fight. Everyone will be straight, like looking, okay, we don't want to deal with that guy at all. We don't want him in our team. So whatever the example is, and sometimes I have to give the same example in terms of teachers. Like if the teacher is saying that the problem why the kids are not learning is the kids, I straight away understand where the issue actually is. Because it's never about the kids, it's about you. It's what's in the mirror. And if you start blaming something, it's very clear where the actual, like not problem, but where the issue starts from. Because if my team needs to take ownership and I'm perfect, there is an issue there.
This is the sign. And going back to your principal example, if we go to the first time where there's someone else is going to take the blame and say, I'm going to do that. Okay, first of all, the team knows that's a person who will help us out. But then the guy who didn't take the ownership, we all know that. Right. So that guy's status in the team is actually going down.
Absolutely.
So imagine you're a leader who lets your subordinate take the fall. Oh, we didn't get the project done. And now upper management are coming along and, want answers. And the leader says, oh, or not even says anything. It's just silent. But then a lower level project manager says, yo, that was on me. I did that, and their leader never says anything.
Yeah, everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
Everyone always knows what's up, who's there, who made the mistake. It's just it's also happened in the NCO school where with me and Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess one guy hid the blank rounds. He dig a hole and he hid it.
The blank rounds, why?
Yeah, because he didn't want to carry it. There was so much of them.
Okay.
And then obviously they got caught, but nobody understood who actually buried it. And then they were like all like 50 or 60 of us in one line, and they said that we will never go away from here until someone admits that they did it. And obviously everyone knew who were the ones who actually dig the hole. And eventually, like, I don't know, after 15 minutes, Alexander just raised his hand. I did it. I buried it. And now we got someone to take ownership, who took ownership. And it was good enough for the instructors to continue. He didn't get any punishment because everyone understood that this is the guy who just didn't do it, but he just wanted to get away. So he took it on his own shoulder.
And the instructors knew that too.
Obviously, everyone understood.
Okay.
And then eventually, but it solved. And obviously, we now have much more respect for that dude and not for that dude who didn't take ownership, because everyone had to suffer because of that one dude, but nobody were willing to give him out either. Because if I'm the one who gives him out, if I really want to truly help this guy, I will go later on and actually ask him, hey, how could I cover you? Hey, what could you have done better? But you don't criticize in public. You praise in public, you criticize private. And I think that's the way to go in every place. And I think that's one of the mistakes what a lot of happens also in our debriefs, what we teach, is that people kind of want to emphasize other people's mistakes. You also did wrong. Did you notice it? So you want to rub it in so that you can take a little bit of blame away from you, because it's very natural. Because we don't want to take all the blame, because why should I? They did it.
Sure.
But if you show ownership, actually things will turn out very good for you.
And taking that blame, like the example with Alexander, often it's not as bad. Like, it turns out everybody knew, and Alexander quite rightly understood someone just has to take the blame here. And actually, it's not lashes or punishment or a whole weekend detention or something like that. It was actually nothing kind of happened. The instructors know, everybody knows, so we can be. The fear that we have, so this gentleman that who did the thing originally, the soldier, let's say, he obviously, I guess, had some fear of the punishment, fear of the reprisals or the consequences of his actions. By taking it, they're not that bad. We live more, Seneca says, we live more fear in our imagination rather than actual reality. We cause more hurt to ourselves in our mind than actually in the real life. So the punishment or the consequences are not that bad. Just take them, move on.
Yeah, and in reality over there was really no punishment that could have kicked you out from the school, because the overall, like the order from the higher, it was everyone pretty much has to finish, because we don't have enough people. So everyone has to finish. So you're pretty much only way how you can get kicked out of school was that if you get like drunk.
Right. Okay. You do something hugely egregious.
Yeah, stupid.
And you alluded to the super black belt maneuver in that example as well, because I think it's pretty easy for us to think, okay, Alexander puts up his hand, yes, whatever, run a few laps, do some small punishment, whatever, but we all know. And a point was we all know the dude who actually did it, and we have our judgments in our mind, and now the team knows that's not a reliable person. The team knows that's someone who's maybe not to be trusted or does that. But the black belt maneuver is then to go to that person behind the scenes, to not hold that in, to not make their life worse, but actually say, hey man, how can I help you? You seem to be having an issue here. Something's really tough for you. How can I help you do better at this?
Yeah, because the main idea is not to find who's to blame and who was guilty or whatever. The idea is to think, okay, how did I let this happen? Me as one of the students in the school, I could have like supported this guy. So I clearly didn't understand something which bothered that guy. That's why he had to do what he had to do. So I should actually start thinking, okay, how did I contribute to this, and what can I do next time so it wouldn't happen? Because eventually we all lose. Everyone is going to lose. And if only one guy would have helped that guy, okay, I can take this with my pack. I have enough room. So we can do a lot to prevent this from happening, because eventually everyone will fail.
So this gets into the first topic that we want to talk about. So this is getting into extreme ownership, and we're going to dive into this a little bit further here. This idea of extreme ownership and the examples of it, that I could have done something, and we're going to talk to why should somebody else have done? Shouldn't that guy fucking work it out for himself? Come on. So in this podcast today, we're going to talk to you about the 4 laws of combat leadership. I'm going to explain each one of them. And the 4 laws of combat leadership are a guide to help you build up your team. If you don't have leadership skills, if your team is in disarray, these are some very finite steps that you can take. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, to help you along the way of building your team and how you're getting there. After that, we're also going to look at the mindsets for victory. And the mindsets for victory are like the things to keep in your mind while you're executing the 4 laws of combat. As we're rising the ladder, getting a little bit better at teamwork, a little bit better at leadership, the mindsets for victory are ideas that we keep, that we can refer back to. We need to make a decision. And you say, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to get a simple plan? What am I going to do? Okay, the mindsets say I should be default aggressive. What do? They help you choose what to do. They're a very high level mechanism of helping you what to do. So we're going to go through those. And of course, all the credit here we have to give back to Jocko Willink Leif Babin, Echelon Front, for the seminal book, Extreme Ownership. It's a book that changed my life. I mean, for you as well, Remo. As I understand.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I wanted to pretty much add the same comment that I think that we, in our unit, we live the same principles, good or bad. We made mistakes, but what Jocko and Leif were able to do, they were able to frame it in a very simple way, how to follow it, what's the main principles, what are the steps to success, so to say. So yeah, all hats down to those guys. I have no idea how he did it. But the main principles, they come from war. So he had a need that he needed to train the future leaders. So he only what he had was his experience and the experience that he had gained through his career. So he had to put together a method or a training kind of cycle which had to teach leadership. And eventually that's when he retired, he came up with the books and started doing it in a civilian world as well. And it turned out it's the same. It's the same world, same people.
Indeed.
We're just dealing with people who need to lead people. So leadership is leadership regardless if it's in the kindergarten, is it in the school, it's leadership. It's just different environment, a little bit different, little differences. But end of the day, it's all the same.
Right. These are the lessons that many leaders, not just in the combat field, have learned themselves, maybe intuitively, maybe from reference books over the years. And it was just somehow Jocko and Leif's use of words, the eloquency that they have to combine these very simple ideas and put them in terms. And and part of the reason that we're doing this podcast out in English is, number 1, dummy over here doesn't speak Estonian. Number 2, we want to get to a wider audience. But also number 3, something we've been coming across because we are trying to take the work of Echelon Front, build upon that, stand on the shoulders of giants, so to say, and deliver that to a European audience. And here in Europe, okay, we're all about languages, different nations, different languages. And so one of the topics we've been discussing is, how does this work translate? Because Jocko, the power of this is these words. These are not rocket science. These are not new ideas, like you say. But it's not as obvious when translating them into Estonian, Finnish, German. We're now working in different languages, different people. And it's deceptive because Jocko is so good at putting the words in such simple terminology that so much of this terminology is Jocko's voice. And I would say we struggle. We're thinking hard about, it's not as obvious how to translate this, because you can't just take get after it and put it in Estonian, or default aggressive, these awesome terms. That's something you've been grappling with a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that our language in Estonia, we have a lot of words, but we sometimes don't have the right word that kind of describes the what is it? The
Feeling, yeah.
Of that word. Because if you say extreme ownership, or you say it in Estonian, ülim vastutus, I mean, it's not the same. It's different vibe with different feeling. Same with default aggressive. Same with innovate and adapt. It's different wording, so defining, so the message can be simple, clear, and concise. It's very difficult in your own language, and especially if you don't have the experience and the examples. And that's why I think we come back to the story of telling it through different stories, that now you're able to understand what's behind that word through sentences and through stories and through examples. And I think that's what it's all about. So, and I think as Jocko is saying all the time, if cover and move doesn't work for you, I know, use teamwork.
Sure.
Use whatever it is that you understand, and that just brings the idea forward.
Right. And that is part of our goal. We are trying to bring these lessons here in Europe. And first in Estonia, Finland, Germany, we're working with different people. I suspect that over time, we will get there in finding the intent behind these words. And it's not just the direct translation we're looking for. There's some, because these words have Jocko's flavor. So I've said a lot, and not just, I don't mean the discipline go, I mean the flavor. I mean his special sauce.
Which has a really good flavor.
It does. I suspect something like that will come from someone like you. And I'm coming to that idea. We will get there, because my experience is working with entertainers. So first of all, the stand-up comedy, but even before that was rap in Estonia. And the way that early on the hip hop guys had to modify rap and hip hop for Estonian language, and they had to learn to bend it and twist it and find new ways, new words, even new ways of sticking words together. That's what Genka and the early guys did here, from what I'm told. And then when we brought the stand-up comedy here, I think that was what Sander Igis did very well. Was he loves hip hop as well, and he understood, okay, he's going to have to twist words, change their meaning, little bit of poetry style to his stand-up. And I'm thinking this is something that's going to happen here again, right? So I think it's all under process, but something like that.
I think even what's even more important is that the words are only 7% of our communication. And if we now communicate only online, we only get the 7%. So those words that you choose, they have to be very accurate and on point. Because if we just communicate like this, it's the sound of voice, the tone of voice. Are you, I don't know, straightforward? Are you very like this? Or are you calm, low, like a DJ voice or whatever it was? And then also like 53% is your body language. Like how do you, and this like is 100% of the message. So 7% is only the words. So if you mess that up, it's a very good chance that the people don't understand, because everything else is in their imagination. And I think that if we now talk towards the civilian like companies, organizations, and you go there and talk military language, nobody understands, nothing. And actually what's interesting is that in conscript service and the Defense League guys and the people who actually are mainly worked in the civilian world, even if they go to the army, initially it's much easier to explain them those principles through civilian examples, because that's the world they have much more knowledge. And now if you translate those into the military, then eventually they understand how to think, not what exactly to think, but how to think. And because we have so much experience in the civilian world, so if you now connect those two worlds together and able to bring the examples through, or the message through those examples, it's much easier to understand everything.
All right, let's do it. Let's get into this. So the first mindset for victory, and I think it's the most important one. We were alluding to it before, extreme ownership. So this means that you need to take responsibility for everything in your life. If you can't do this, then you can't build the rest of these ideas. You have to start with this, that everything in your life, is your responsibility. And in any situation, you need to look around and say, what could I have done to help that situation? So this is, Remo, a rather confronting idea to many people, but it clearly wasn't me. That guy did it. The other team member did it. It was the other team. Or the other, it's a hard idea to take.
Yeah. So
why is it a hard idea?
The question is, what do we want to get out from this? Do we want to look for who's to blame, look for excuses, or we actually want to solve the problem?
Okay.
And if you want to solve the problem, the fastest way of solving problem is admitting that this is my mistake, which it actually is, because where does a problem start from?
But if I solve the problem, I can just say it's you. That he was him, and if he knows, if he just does it, then it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's
pretty fast.
It's what we need to understand is that we need the fastest path to solution. And if we blame each other, we raise our emotions, we trigger our ego, and that's never going to happen us solve the problem faster, because we're always running up against the time. Time is ticking, it doesn't slow down, it just runs in its own pace. So it's just how to win more time, and the best way to solve a problem is to just solve them without doing any other stupidity. And if you take ownership of the problems, and if you absolutely truly take ownership of also the solution and the implementation, then just problems get solved. And actually our relationship will get stronger as well, because strategically it's much more important to maintain the relationship. Like if you have a trouble at home or trouble at workplace and you don't get along with your wife, I mean, you can have a perfect plan, you can have a perfect attitude, but if you don't take into account the relationship part, how to maintain it and how to build it, it will be very difficult and very bad to be in a team where people don't get along. Like try to go home and relax if there is someone annoying. And the actual one is that you are the one who can actually change it. Only you.
Only you.
It starts with you.
This is why we talk about extreme ownership first, because we're going to get into the 4 laws of combat leadership. And the first law, spoiler alert, is cover and move, which means teamwork. If we're not working as a team, then we can't achieve anything. But the reason we're looking at extreme ownership first is we've got to look at ourselves. Well, we can't work as a team if our egos are out of control, if I'm pointing fingers and saying it was you, it was you, it was you. Teamwork's not happening there. But let's go back to your example of the guy who was burying the rounds. Clearly he did that. No one was making him do that. There was no outside pressure. And we've all got a million examples of this where that guy did it. He just did it. And this is the hard examples for people to get, that that we could have given him help. That person, yes, that was him. Okay, fine. We're not saying no one put a gun to his head and said bury them. It was all coming from his own mind, doing that activity, which turned out it was the negative one. But extreme ownership tells us that we still could have done something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we either didn't explain correctly what's the intent of this ammunition. If there is a chance that you don't have a room, maybe share it, open it up. So there's always something which we could have done to prevent it. Now, if we're in this situation right now, I mean, maybe there isn't a fast fix to this problem, but we can still focus on it and we need to solve it. If we are on a battlefield, we need to address the problem right now, right then, and we can't anticipate, okay, why did we get into this situation, after all, or overall? So at the moment, we need to put the bandage on because it's a symptom of something. If he did it, for whatever the reason, it must mean that it's a symptom that something was not done before. It's not the root cause. Root cause is somewhere else. So if we zoom out enough, we can always find a place where we either did something wrong or we just didn't do it. So that helps you to actually understand. It helps you to look for places to improve in yourself. So pretty much what the extreme ownership means is that I'm looking for places to improve myself without pointing fingers. I'm just looking for how can I contribute better.
Sure. So we need to take responsibility for our actions and also look what we could have done to support others. I have an example that in the early days of Comedy Estonia, where people are wanting to book us, come to a party, come to a conference, and someone came along and said, "Oh, we've got some countryside thing. We want to book Sandor." And I wasn't looking. I just went, yeah, sure, go ahead, go and do it. And then 2 days later, it comes out this was not some small countryside thing that I had agreed on. It was a big ass festival with a big ass promoter with a big thing that I just simply hadn't looked enough about. And we'd already agreed. And I looked at that and I went, this is going to be bad. This is not how we want to do it. We were even more fundamentalist back in the day about how we presented stand-up. We were super careful. We still are. Stand-up is a very fragile art form. You can't just whack it anywhere and it doesn't just work like that. But we were even more hardcore. We were like, this. And I was like, this is not a good way to present us. I don't like this. But it was me. Even though my colleague had done the booking, she had done that, I was the one who hadn't looked. I had not looked into the details. And I knew in myself, I hadn't investigated further. So it was going to be tricky because, I then said, I need to solve this problem. I contacted them and I said, look, I have made this problem. I have booked Sander. Unfortunately, I am here to tell you I'm sorry, but he won't be coming. And this is the good one. You're going to hear from our lawyers. We've already spent, we're going to sue you for the marketing money that we've already spent. I'm like, wait, that was 2 days ago. How much marketing money did you just spend in the last 2 days? So I'm not so worried anymore when people start threatening lawyers at me. But I had to, go into bat for that. I couldn't hide behind my employees. So if you did it, and if any, and in that example, maybe it's not the best example because that was clearly me. But if my employee, let's say she hadn't even talked to me, she just went, Lewis gave me the mandate to book stuff and she didn't look further enough into it, that's still on me. That's still, even if she hadn't consulted me and it wasn't my decision, if she had just booked it and then some days later I work out, this is a terrible event, we shouldn't be doing this, still my fault as the leader, still my responsibility to get in there and solve that problem because I didn't educate my employee enough. I didn't give them enough resources. I didn't help them enough to be able to make the correct decisions.
And the same applies if you're a teammate. It doesn't have to be on a leadership position, like per se. You can be a team member, and if your leader fails, you didn't give them your leader right input. You could have done something that your team leader wouldn't fail. Like if you see that leader is walking towards the hole and then he falls into the hole, it's on you. That you didn't tell that, hey, you're walking towards the hole. Don't do it. Or at least like help or try your best to support that person. Because if you don't do it, you leave it on you and then it's definitely on you. There's no situation where you can't take ownership. And I think that the extreme ownership and what I think Jocko and the other guys also, they have spoke about what they kind of failed in terms of the naming is that people took it to too extreme.
Sure.
And what it means that like if you take all the problems of the world on your shoulder, you will go out of the balance. You will burn like a candle, which means that you have to do your best, but you still have to maintain like movement. You have to still be able to actually do other things as well. Like if I will fix Estonia, I will fix Europe.
Sure.
Like it's a really big thing to do and what are you fixing in the first place. But what you can do is that regardless of what the environment is, if there is a corona or if there is whatever war, now how likely it is that you could have prevented it? Not really. But if you now get stuck in that place, then you maybe get desperate and you go sad because I could have done something. But if the environment around you changes, you are responsible how you act. You can take ownership always how you behave in a certain situation, and nobody can take that away from you.
So how do I act if something happens? What happens when a war starts? What happens when the interest rates change? What happens when one of the members of my family gets ill? Let's say cancer. No one can stop that unless it's lung cancer. But you see my point. We can control our reaction to that. If we can't control the input, we can certainly control the output. That's the bit. So when extreme ownership isn't about looking around, yeah, that was on me. Oh, yeah, sorry, I did that one. Yes, that me too. It's not just gathering this just for the sake of doing this. It's looking around and saying, what could I have reasonably done to help the situation? So I can't reasonably change Europe next week. Maybe I could get a plan together. I'm going to get elected to the parliament here in Estonia. Then I'm going to work at that a couple of years. Then I'm going to get to the EU parliament. Then, okay, great, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I've got this long-term plan that I'm going to be able to do it. But in the short term, I can't stop a war next week all on my own. So what can I reasonably do around me? So in your example with the guy who had the problem, you could have reasonably helped. I can go and help. And most of the problems around us, we can reasonably help. Your colleague who's feeling overloaded at work, you can reasonably go and ask them, yo, can I help you out? I'll donate a couple of hours and help you get back on track. Mm-hmm. It's about being, what can we reasonable? What's the balance?
And I think that the key behind it is that you have to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't believe it, like if I don't believe it, you will not believe in me as well. I can tell you the words that I take ownership, but it's, if you actually have taken ownership of your life, you don't have to say it.
Mm.
People around you understand and feel it. So that's why you have to find a realistic way, what you believe in, what will be the solution, and how I actually could have contributed. If you can't find it, then you have to dig deeper. There is always a way. You're just looking at it from different angle. But you have to really believe that. Because, for example, if I'm in a conscript service, and there is a general on a very high ranking place, and he has worked 30 years to get to that position, and I don't agree with his attitude, then yes, I can take ownership of my actions. I can't really change it today, but strategically, if I now take it like seriously into my heart to change it, I will work next 30 years and become a general myself, and then change it.
Mm.
So, like, you can always do it, but you have to believe in it. If you don't, good luck.
That the intent has a smell, as we say. You have to genuinely believe that. And I think if the situation happens and you can't or don't, I think it's probably better. You don't want to take ownership there. Have a stop and think, is this my ego? The ego is very important. We need the egos. The egos drive us. Top special forces guys, they have egos. Of course, that's what drives them. Best comedians, that's what drives them. They have an ego. They want to perform. They want to show that. So the ego is healthy, but it can be too much. It can overwhelm us. It can lead us down negative directions. And I'm thinking the last time my partner and I had an argument, we're both a bit frazzled. It's a long day. And I don't know, we're upset at each other all of a sudden. And I remember thinking in that moment, oh, no, it's her. And I've got the logic in the back of my brain going, extreme ownership, this, you've been doing this for a long time. You know that you should just be able, but it's so hard to go up to her and say, I am sorry. I could have done that for you. Because you think, oh, fuck, do I always have to do it? And that's the ego. And in that moment, it's the ability to detach. Mm-hmm. And maybe you need some time. So we're not trying to say like, oh, we walk around all the time. Yes, I'm really good at this. You're going to fail. It's going to be hard for you. There are going to be these moments where your ego tells you that it's not your responsibility, but you still know.
I think our brain is looking for shortcuts.
Mm.
And it feels like if we say things out and if we, blame others, maybe the solution comes faster.
Sure.
But it doesn't. It's extreme ownership is pretty much taking the hard path, not the bath, but path. I don't know how to explain.
Path, yes.
Path.
Path.
So it's about taking the hard way. It's not for looking at the shortcuts, because shortcuts, they don't work. Doesn't matter where you are. So you have to look how to get there through hard ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where actually it will actually make sense, and it actually it has the biggest possibility of a good result if you just go through the hard way.
The hard way gives you the highest possibility of a good result. I like that. All right, let's keep moving along. So We've talked about extreme ownership. We need to look at it. Then, as I was already alluding to, the first law of combat leadership is cover and move. We've got to have teamwork, because otherwise you're just working as an individual. You're just, I'm one guy, okay? I'm one guy. I mean, I had this exact moment before I discovered Combat Ready. I knew that I had a passion and an interest in the material that we're talking about today. I've known how it's helped it myself. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm a trainer, I'm a teacher, I'm a speaker. I can go out there and do it. And then I was helping customers already, helping people with it. And then I understood, wait, I'm a leadership consultant who works on his own? Huh? Kind of lesson is that? You know, I'm telling everyone the first law is apparently teamwork, but then I'm working on my own. And I understood already and so many times with Combat Ready, already I've been humbled because there are the bits I can't do. And when we work as a team, that's where we get so much further.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the essence of the cover and move is pretty much that it says it's in itself is that you need to cover others first and then look for a path how to get the other person moving. And if the other person is moving, then you can start looking how I can move. So you give first, and if you give to the team and you prioritize your team first, then they will prioritize you back. So you give first and then you get back.
Because the name is cover and move. It's not move and then cover. The secret's in the title. At first, we give.
Yeah, and absolutely. Actually, today we had a conversation about it. Like in Estonian Defense Forces, it's the vice versa. It's like move and cover.
Okay, how so? What do you mean? Like,
and then we like had a conversation about why is that way? And if you now like think that okay, the reply was that we want people to take more initiative, and if you move first, then I mean it shows initiative. Like if you have like a trouble in your culture that people don't take initiative, let's put that the first thing is to take initiative and then let recover. I mean, it doesn't work in regards of that, but it could be the first step, and the next step we will change it to cover and move. But at least that was the kind of the little logic behind it, which kind of makes sense. If it's something that you knowingly do, and that's what it actually means, then it makes sense. But yeah, I would rather always, like even in the military, like if you go into the room alone, you're there alone, and you don't want to be alone in a room where there's a lot of hostiles. So you rather want to be there together with someone, which doesn't mean that sometimes you have to go there alone, but these are the very rare circumstances. But you always need to keep in mind that I need to first cover and then we can move. And same applies in all the companies and all the departments. We may have a really awesome sales team. Like we sell like a ridiculous amount of things, but we don't have a team that can actually deliver it, which means that eventually the customer will lose, and guess what? Everyone loses. Doesn't matter that your sales team is so good and sells everything, but if you're not able to deliver, it's a problem, which means that yes, maybe we will take our leg off the accelerator pedal and take a little bit less, put little bit less focus on the sales, and then go and see how we can cover the other departments so they can get up to speed, and then together we will start moving. Because if it's very difficult to cover for other person if they are so far away that we can't catch them.
So what's the use in the sales team being so far ahead if production can't keep up? Great, fantastic. We've got an awesome sales team. But winning means the whole company wins, when the whole team has to win. So what's the use in getting light years ahead if we can't implement for the customers? I mean, I was thinking about what you were saying, like, do we move first? Do we cover first? What do we do? And then balancing this off, because everything's a balance, default aggressive. And this is one of the mindsets of leadership, mindsets of victory we're going to come to, which means default aggressive, meaning get after it, like do it, make it happen. Stop sitting on your bum and just make something, just go and do it first.
Take initiative.
I think it's a little bit of the intricacy of the nuance of the words here, cover and move. So when you are covering, the implication is that someone else is moving. It's not cover and cover. It's not, oh, I'm sitting down looking out for somebody else and they're also. If I am covering, they are maneuvering forward. So I might not be going forward, but if I have now enabled someone else on the team to move forward, another person, another department, this is still taking the initiative because I have enabled the team to move forward. So I would I know we're arguing nuances of words now, but to me, to cover does not imply lack of initiative.
Sure, absolutely. And even if the team is moving and they're doing it the wrong way, it means that now I have to go and cover.
Okay, yep.
Because they are already moving. There was probably a reason why they started moving, which means that, okay, if they're not covering and they're already moving, which means that, okay, I have to now go and figure out how to cover them because they are already in motion, and it's better to move than not move at all. So that's the kind of the balance. And every movement that the military does, clearing a building, whatever the tactical situation is, you're always covering and always moving. It's just finding the right balance, because what the soldiers have to do, the basics is how to shoot, how to move, how to communicate. And pretty much cover means shooting, move means moving, and communicating is what puts it together. Because we have to communicate each other when to move, when to cover. And if you don't have those three aspects, then we're done. We are kind of useless in terms of the team. So that's where it comes from, because on the battlefield, you need to move, because if you're not moving, the enemy is moving. They are maneuvering around you. So you need to start moving your ass.
I've heard you say shoot, move, and communicate so many times, but I've never heard you express it to me in that way before. What shoot, move, and communicate means. So to go back to that, shooting, when I'm laying down I'm covering. I am covering. I am looking after somebody else, because I think from an outsider's perspective, we just think, I'm a Rambo with a gun and I'm going to shoot an enemy. So shooting means aggressively moving forward. But in your context, if we're thinking of, I'm not just Rambo on my own, only looking after myself, the purpose of shooting is, okay, yes, maybe I want to kill the enemy. That's
to
what
lay
we're there
down
for.
the covering fire.
To lay down the covering fire so that my teammates can maneuver. I think that's something that at least I've never thought about with that idea before in a military context. So shoot, move, and communicate. Shooting is what I do so that I'm covering my teammates. Moving is, well, we want to move forward. We don't want to sit here. We want to get to our goal. We're going somewhere. It might be the capital city. It might be the next base we have to take. It might be the bad guys' HQ that we've got to go extract that person with. So we've got to cover for that person by shooting. We've got to move to get there. And then the thing that links them is communication. That if we cover and move doesn't work unless we're talking to each other.
And that's how kind of the war is fought. Like if you are able to disable your enemy's movement, they're stuck. If you're able to take away their weapons, they can move, but they don't have any weapons. If you take away their communication, they're also stuck. So these are the games that we play. You can take away one of those three things, and the other person is already in disadvantage. So now you can actually have to move rapidly to maintain your initiative, pretty much.
All right, let's keep going through them. So the second law of combat leadership is simple. That now we've got a team. Very good. Great. We all like each other. We've got respect. We're showing humility to each other.
Building relationships
with each other. So we got to have a plan. All right,
Absolutely.
we're a team. We got to have a plan. We don't just go off and randomly do stuff. And it's not just like the movies. In the movies, they're in the middle of a gun battle and they're all like, yo, you take the headquarters. And now after understanding this, I'm like, that's insane. No one's changing the plan on the battlefield. They make a plan before they go. They map it all out. And then they're executing when they're out there. Now, not under regular circumstances are we like, yo, troops, you go that way, I go. I mean, yes, but not under the regular circumstances. So we're making a plan.
Yeah,
that plan has to be simple.
We are making a plan, and actually, I think it's a General Patton or someone who have had this saying: plan is useless, planning is everything. Because it's not about the plan, because the plan will go wrong straight away. You can plan for a week, you can plan for a month, you can plan for an hour. If you start to execute on the plan, something goes wrong. And obviously, I think what's the biggest part about planning is the same thing. You still have to keep moving. And if you're planning for very long, you get stuck. So you need to understand the intent. What's the purpose? What's the end goal? And the method that you choose how to get from point A to point B, you let the specialist or the team choose it. Because there are many ways how to skin a cat. You just have to understand that, hey, we need to skin a cat. Then you choose the method yourself. And it's not about understanding all the details of what goes into the plan, because the specialists, they already know anyway how to program this thing, how to do this part. And maybe they have to take a little bit of focus on that, but they will figure it out. But if it's very difficult to figure out things if you don't understand why we do things. And that's why in the military, every operation you go, everyone in a team, they at least have to understand the intent. If I understand the intent, I can roll. Doesn't matter what happens now. I can already have a understanding what I need to do. And now I'll figure out along the way with the resources that I have. Maybe I don't have much, but these are the things that we have to work with. So I will figure out how to get this job done.
So what do you mean by intent? What is the intent of the mission?
It's a commander's intent in the military. Okay. So you have a commander or you have a mission. And if you understand that part, if you understand why and how the winning looks like, you can figure out a way how to win.
Okay.
And if you don't understand it, then you're lost.
So we're going on a mission where a team, the commander says we've got to do something, whether it's enemy base, whether we've got to grab a bad guy, whether we've got to move forward and capture some land. First of all, we need to know why. Why are we doing this? And this is a common one. Again, everyone thinks in the military that they just shout the things, you go and do it because I order you to do it, this sort of stuff. It's not like this at all. Any mission, we need to know why we're doing it. And this is what, and not just because most, it's not like this need to know basis. This is a need to know basis, soldier. And it's again stuff from the movies, right? It's the same thing with your projects and the work. You need to know why you are carrying out this project. So we need to know the why, and then we need to know all the way at the other end, which is how do we know the goal? How do we know when we're finished? What does winning, what's a successful end state of this mission?
Yeah, we have to simplify it so absolutely everyone understands. And if one guy doesn't understand, it means that it wasn't simple enough. And now we use a readback, because if I like another quote from a general. They have been good generals coming up with really good quotes, and I think it goes along the lines like, I don't understand what I told you before you tell me what you understood. So, because I may think that I gave you a very simple order, but if you didn't understand it, or if you don't understand it, then it wasn't simple. So that's why we need to confirm. And if you move in a stack, or if you move in a formation in the military, if there is a hand signal that you have to pass to a guy, you have to make sure that they get it. You kind of have a visual eye contact. Hey, this, okay, we both understand, now we know. But if I just say it like this and they'll confirm that you got the message, then there is a very good chance that you don't get it. Which means that we need to confirm if the other person understood what I actually wanted to send them, what information. And obviously, there's always a communication problem in the companies. And one of the questions you may ask is that, do you have a problem with receiving information or sending it? Which one is it? Which one you suck at?
It's so this idea of the readback, that when someone tells you the plan or the intent, the end state, and if they're giving you parts of the plan or key points or something you need to do, that they're telling you. And then you tell them straight back. And I think this is one of those things that's so simple that it feels that people just skip it over. It feels redundant in the moment. It's absolutely not redundant. But if I'm here telling you, okay, here's why we're doing it. We're going over there to get that. Here's how we know when the project's done, and you need to look after these 3 things. Now tell me that straight back. Why? I just fucking told you. What am I doing that? But it's so important. It feels redundant. It feels almost like we're being childish. Now tell me what I told you. Like a little bit like that, but it's not. Like you have to, at least I found internal resistance when we've been doing our exercises with different customers, and I can feel the resistance from the client. They're like, yep, I heard you, good, we're good to go, we've understood. But I don't know until we've taken that really obvious step of them repeating the words back to me.
And I think one of the black belt moves here is also not even repeating back the words or asking the question, hey, read me back. But it's just a matter of throwing there a contingency. Like, okay, we need to go to southern Estonia. We go there by a car. Okay, now you read back. Yeah, we go to southern Estonia. We go there back by car. We need to be in Tartu, I don't know, 1800. Okay, now you know what the winning looks like. And now I say, okay, what if the car breaks down? And now, are we able to figure out the solution which still gets us to Tartu by that time? Or you now start focusing on fixing the car and you miss the deadline. So we can throw in the curveballs there, which are some of the things that go wrong. And now if you come up with still the straight answer, then we understand that, okay, now you understand what the intent is. It doesn't matter what happens. Are you able to figure out the solution that actually gets us to the goal?
Okay, so they don't have to just directly say my words back to me, but I can start to ask them genuine questions. All right, you've understood? Great, you've understood all the facts you have to do. Good. So what are you going to do if the car doesn't work? So what are you going to do if it starts raining? So what are you going to do if only 3 of the 5 people turn up? Start giving them questions to poke through, genuine questions to poke through, and this sparks conversation. So this can really help, because then you don't just get the, yes, boss, you got to go there. Yes, boss, he just said by 5:30. Yes, we got to da-da-da. You know, this can come in, but we're actually making them think in the read back.
Yeah, but you just want to think through some of the contingencies as well, because that's what helps. And we are able to more easily adapt if something goes wrong, and we can still move on and achieve the goal.
Okay. So that's the second law of combat leadership. Simple. We're going to have a plan. We're going to say the intent. We're going to say the end state, and we're going to keep that plan as simple as possible, not overcomplicate it, because everybody on the team needs to understand the plan. Next law is prioritize and execute. We've got a plan. Okay, it's a good plan. We know what we need to do. There's a bunch of stuff according to the plan that we need to do. All right. Which one are we going to do first? We got to work this out.
And also, I mean, we have a team. Now we know where we go.
Right.
And when we start going there, things will happen. So how do you overcome those obstacles? And you have to take into consideration your training. What have you, like, what kind of process have you created so that we don't have to speak, we can just solve the problems? And in the military, like the training, how to react to contact. If someone is shooting at you, that's something which is trained into you, so you don't have to think too much to get the initial thing going. Okay, you shoot back, you cover, whatever, you do your maneuver. So that helps. But if it's a non-starter situation, you should always anticipate time. How much time do you have? Like, okay, we need to get to south at 1800. It's 1500 right now. Okay, we have 3 hours. So then you anticipate what's the intent. We need to get there. And also, first thing what you have to be considering is, like, okay, how does this influence the relationships within my team? Because as we said, number one priority is to maintain relationships and build them. So I have to take those things into consideration and then come up with a biggest priority which we will solve that will get us the biggest impact. So for example, I don't know, we have the car breaks down. Then if we don't get the other vehicle, we will never get there. So we need to solve this problem as fast as possible. Maybe we also have a problem that our stomachs are empty, but this is not a mission critical. We can overcome that. So you need to understand the priorities within that actually will not, that are critical for your mission. And also then pay attention to your team, because if we have 3 hours, maybe we could walk.
Sure.
But it will maybe, I don't know, kill our people, because we don't have enough training behind us that we are physically fit to achieve this. So you can do a lot of those decisions, but you need to take into consideration what's more important, mission or the people. And you need to find the right balance, and everything is according to the time available. If we don't have much time, we need to just make a decision and see what happens, and then regroup, make a decision, regroup, make a decision, regroup, and see where you get. And sometimes you have to cancel the mission because all the signs show you that you can't make it, which means, okay, now let's preserve our resources, let's regroup, and let's go tomorrow. Let's go back to Tallinn, let's rent a hotel, and there is a first bus going on in the morning, let's go jump on that. You saved a lot of maybe you give away a little bit from your mission. You didn't get there so fast, but we have tomorrow. But if we fail all the relationship and we start arguing and then we go each different direction, I go to the forest because I hate all of you. I go to Tallinn back and we never get to the mission. So we can lose some battles because we are playing the long game anyways. The war is long. And what happens usually is also like we get so fixated on myself, or we get into the tunnel vision where we only now, our car break down, and now we are only fixating on the car. And 2 hours has passed and we forgot that we needed to go to Tartu by that time. So we get fixated on that small thing, and that happens very often. And I think Jocko is saying that the detachment is a superpower. You need to detach yourself and see the bigger picture. And there has to be at least one person in a team who is detached enough, who is able to maintain a calm, cool, collective state, which helps us to make better calls, observe better what's around us, and then make a call. So relax, look around, make a call, but you have to detach yourself from that situation. Someone has to, a car broke down. Now one guy goes out and starts, while some people are starting to fix the car, one person is thinking, so what else could we do? Could we order a bus? We need to get there by that time. We have so much time, but they are already fixing a problem. So we're delegating pretty much. And that's pretty much leads to the fourth law of combat, which is decentralized command. We can't make all decisions alone. And you need to be able to, if you want to make the best decisions, you need to detach and decentralize your decision making, which means that some people are going to be fixing cars. Some people are starting to do research on when the buses are stopping. Third guy starts looking for the plane tickets. One guy starts to hitchhike already. So you have multiple ways how to solve the same problem. But you put your team to work, and then one guy is able to be detached and actually see the resources and where they need to allocate them. Car is fixed. Everyone gather around. Let's go to the car. Let's go.
So we've gone into prioritize and execute to the fourth law, which is decentralized command. So we are building on all of the other. Once we've built a team, let's cover and move. We've got a good plan. It's a simple plan. Everyone on the team's understood the plan. We've taken what we need to do. We've found the top priority and we've started to do it. That's number one. And then when the plan inevitably falls apart, then we've got this decision-making framework that helps us to work out what to do, because the plan will absolutely fall apart from the moment you step out the door. From the moment that you execute the plan, little things will go wrong. And as Remo was saying, the first thing we want to do is work out time. How much time do I have to solve this problem right now? Do I have 30 seconds or do I have 5 minutes? Even that makes a huge difference. I can breathe in 5 minutes. I can take 60 seconds out of that 5 to breathe, to detach, to get fresh air, to stand up, stretch my legs. In 30 seconds, all right, you might have to just do something right now if that's it, or less time.
And then regroup again.
And regroup. So the importance of knowing how long you have to solve the problem, because I can breathe for a little while, and the breathing is important. The breathing is, or detachment, the ability to relax in that moment where I'm upset with my partner. Okay, I should probably go for a walk around the block. I should probably find some way to breathe a little bit, get out of that circumstance, take a metaphorical or actual step back from the situation to try to see that perspective. And this detached perspective is what we want the leader to do, what we should be aiming for as the leader. So we're saying that leaders should be looking up and out. Leaders should not usually be looking down and in. So this is one thing that I struggled when I first became a leader. Before, I guess, I even sort of understood this whole framework, I was like, okay, I got some people, they got to do the job. I sort of instinctively understood that a good leader is leading from the front. Okay, maybe that's not always right, but a good leader gets in amongst the team. A good leader helps out. A good leader is active and solidarity and there with the troops. So I always wanted to be doing stuff with them. I felt like I wasn't doing anything if I wasn't in the middle with them. And what this leads to, if I was standing back, on the other hand, if I was standing back looking around, thinking about the big picture, where are we going next, checking for left and right for concerns, felt like I wasn't doing anything. Because I'm like, hey, my guys are right there. They're doing the hard work. If we're in a Comedy Estonia show and my team are setting up the theater, they're rigging some lights, they're doing some sound, but what am I really doing standing back? I mean, I could be sitting around in my bum doing nothing, but I could be talking to the venue manager, making sure that's coordinated, just double checking that all the different teams are coordinated. This feeling that leadership was doing nothing when it's not. It's that the team respects that you are there looking out for them. They can look down in, they're focusing on plugging in cables right now. They're not concerned about whether the tickets are being set up, whether the other thing is, whether the artist is coming on the bus, whether the bus driver is drunk and, this is a problem, that I'm doing that. At first, I didn't feel like that was a real job. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have some feeling like that at first?
Yeah, I mean, it's... if you probably feel that you're not doing something, you're probably not.
Okay, sure.
Because you should be doing a lot of things. Sure. Because you should be considering, like, if you have this amount of time, you should be looking for, okay, how can I support the team the best? Like, am I thinking of the next steps? Am I planning the future operations? Am I thinking where I could get the better gear? Like, whatever the things are, there's always something to do. And in our unit also, like, you're always looking for work. If there's nothing to do for me at the moment, there's no shooting need to be done, then I'm looking for something. How can I cover? Maybe I'm, checking if everyone has water in the bottle. Whatever those essentials are that we need to check, that's something I can do. And I think in terms of specialist, you should be like 80% focus, like in a tunnel, so to say, and 20% detached. And as a leader, it's vice versa. Like you should be 80% detached and then 20% focused on whatever the thing is, the problem. So it's a constant switch that you have to go. And because sometimes you get in tunnel. And then if nobody else is looking up and out for time to time, then they are not able to help you out from your tunnel. So everyone needs to detach from time to time, especially from their emotions, especially from their ego. Understand where the decision comes from, and the best ability is to get that through detachment. And as a leader, you should be detached most of the time. If your table is full of tasks, you're not able to detach at all.
You're not doing that. To draw that back to a business example, what you said, a leader should be 20%, what was that, 20%? Focused, tunnel vision. Yeah. So working on the tasks, looking down, getting in the weeds a little bit, and then 80% detached. This is sometimes expressed in the business world. I've heard it expressed in a similar way that a leader should be 20% focused on, spend 20% of their time on the next 30 days. And then the 80% of the time on the next 90 days and out. So as a manager, where is your focus? Are you working on stuff that just has to happen this week? Or are you focused on longer term things? Are you looking 90 days out? 6 months out, something like that most of your time as a manager should be looking at those long-term things. If you're just working on something that needs to be done today, so you might not be prioritizing correctly.
So pretty much like your team should be dealing with tactical things 80% of the time, because they're a tactical unit. Now you should be focusing on strategic things, because if you are now also on tactical level and doing tactical things, then who's looking strategic picture? Nobody. So we have to fill our roles, and the best place to look strategically is from leadership position. And it doesn't mean that your team is not able to support you and give you ideas. They have to, because otherwise it's only your thoughts, and we know how that goes. So you need to play around, but most of your time you should be looking up and out. See what's the next big thing, what's the next innovation campaign, how can we actually set up a good vacation policy, whatever those things are that actually help the organization be more efficient. So as a leader, you're pretty much all the time working yourself out from your position, which means that tactically you're not needed. That's if you're tactically needed every day, then it's a very bad situation. But you should you can maybe start 80% tactical, but you have to work yourself through so you actually detach yourself from the team and actually they are able to operate, because they are the ones who are conducting the operations anyway. You're just there to allocate resources when there is a need and support them.
Sure, and sometimes you've got to. Sometimes you've got to be in the trenches. Sometimes I'm thinking of a current example that we've got with Comedy Estonia. We're running all these open mics. That's 3 or 4 mics a week, meaning 3 or 4 nights a week there are shows, that there's something to do. And that when a show that you could be setting up lights, sound, coordinating comedians, doing stuff. And as the leader, I can't be at a show every night. I can't be 3 or 4 nights. It's going to wear me out. I don't want to do that. And in fact, it's maybe not the best use of my time. I should be at home planning the big Daniel Sloss show and big strategic things we're going to do, or working with young comedians or something like that. But, fine. I've got some people who handle that stuff. I got one person who does some high level booking, and I got another guy who's supposed to be there on the ground. We pay, young guy, pay him some money, and he's there doing the job every night. But recently, he got really busy. He had some problems with his health. He had some, family issues and stuff like that. Okay, I'm gonna go to the shows. So I've been going to the shows for the last few weeks, 3 or 4 nights a week, making sure everything's okay. As the leader, I'm covering for that guy. Now, I have noticed that I've had less time, less energy, less ability to look up and out in that time. So I've got to balance those off, right? So now, thankfully, he's feeling better. The situations are resolved. He can take over again, and then I can step back one more time. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I've got to do that. I have to, though, as a leader, make sure that I don't stay there forever. So I've got to be talking with my guy. Hey, man, how you doing? When do you think you can come back? How do you think we can get through this? Okay, fine. You've still got the family issues. I understand. What are we going to do? Let's try and come up with some plan, because I can't be going there. I'll put all my energy into that, and I won't be putting my energy looking up and out. And not only is that good for my guy, because he knows he's covered, he knows that I'll be there. It's important for me as the leader, because I can't always be detached. If I'm running this group of comedians, we're running all these shows, sometimes it is good for me to be at the shows, see what's up, see the latest comedians, build a relationship with the venue manager, see what's up. Sometimes the general needs to be on the ground.
Has to be. And so, okay, for a month, great. I got that experience again. Now I'm ready to step back and keep thinking high level. Because there's always possibility, like extremes are not good. If you're 100% detached, you're too detached. If you're 100% in tactics, you're also in the wrong angle, wrong side. So, and you have to remember, and I think I had a conversation with the general of the Defense League last week, and I asked him, like, okay, like if you get to the higher and higher and higher, then you kind of like, you don't have that team feeling anymore, because you're further and further from the front line. So how can you get not into that trap where you kind of feel that, okay, I know the bigger picture and nobody else understands what else. And he said that the general has to go to the trenches, and that's the only way.
That's it. Yeah.
You have to make your boots muddy. You have to get in there. You get the respect from those dudes because you're actually interested in what's going on. If you don't go there anymore, you're too detached. Because then you don't know what is the reality, what's the exact world where you come from. And very often is that maybe you go to school, you become a leader in school, and then you straight go to the leadership positions while you've never been on front line. And that's very dangerous, because if you are not able to listen, and if you know the smartest guy in the room, then that's a disastrous way of going, because you are so detached from the reality of the front lines that you think that everyone's life is so amazing as it is in your office. But actually people are working in the rain, they're in the mud, they're actually getting after it every day. So you need to go there and actually feel it, because otherwise you won't remember it. And some of the things what we do in our training is that we put the team members in a leadership position, so they can actually feel what does it mean to be a leader in leader shoes. So they can see, oh, it's not so easy. And then you would take the leaders and put them into the team members' shoes. And they understand, okay, this is how it feels like when I lead them. So you take them and put them in the role where different perspective opens. And that is sometimes very useful way of showing a different person's perspective if you have to be in their shoes.
I like that metaphor that you said. why these military examples are so good sometimes is like, does the general have mud on his boots? That's a really good business metaphor, but it's literally true. That general can just ask himself, in the last 6 months, have I ever actually had mud on my boots? Meaning, have I ever actually been outside?
And if not, then you need to go there and make your boots muddy and feel what the frontline troops feel. If you don't do that, that's very bad.
I think we have both such an interest in these topics that I feel like we're going longer than we expected. So I think what we're going to do in this podcast today, we're going to cover the fourth law of combat leadership, which is decentralized command. And then we're going to save a longer talk about the mindsets for victory later on for part 2.
Yeah, I think that we anyways, it's so intervened with everything. So I think we can definitely do it, and we can actually have a spin, like a fast version of that as well. And then later on, we can go deeper anyways.
We can do that. So the fourth law of combat, decentralized command. And you alluded to this earlier, that when we've taken responsibility for ourselves, that means we're going to be able to work as a team. That team now has a plan. We found the intent. We know where we're going, know what winning looks like, and we're off doing it. Decentralized command is the culmination of all of these other steps. It is what we want our teams to look like. It is an attribute that we're striving for, and it means that the people who are closest to the action are making decisions. Another way that I always like to think about it is it's the opposite of micromanagement, because everybody understands what micromanagement is. Everyone's been micromanaged before in the past, and rarely do you like it. So it's interesting to ask, what's the opposite of it then? What does that, if that's bad, what's good? Decentralized command means that we are telling the team the intent. We are telling them what winning looks like, and then we are saying, you go do it the best you see fit. Now, there's always balance. This doesn't mean that we're too detached. Like you said, we never want to be 100% detached. I'm not like, just go do it. Just go and whatever, I don't care. I told you what the goal is, now go and do it. We don't want that either. We want to find some balance, but we don't want to tell the team every step of the way, do this and do this and do this and do this. Or I don't want to be checking, it's your plan, but I'll just check in with you every 2 hours to see how that plan's going. Well, that's not really. We're trying to find that balance where our team members feel like they have the responsibility to make decisions, to maneuver on their own, and that as a leader, you're still there, though, to make sure you can give them assistance. How can I support you? You've got an issue. How can I help you? So that they're not going too wildly off the path.
Yeah, you can't give all the answers to the person, because these are the answers that you came up with. But what we instead of need is that we need to improve their thinking process so they can actually make those decisions yourself. Because if you're the one answering the phone and giving all the answers, guess what? You're wasting a lot of time. Because if you just took a little bit of time, which it takes more time than answering a phone. But if someone asks you, hey, where can I find this file? I need it. I need your schedule right now. Then I can just tell them, this is my schedule, blah, 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 blah. And the chances are that next time they will call you again and ask for the schedule. But instead, you can ask, okay, so we have a folder in that category over there. Go check it out. Pretty much. I mean, this is not the perfect wording, obviously. You're not building a relationship with that wording. But then they instead go there, and next time they have the question, they already know where to look for the answer. So you are trying to make them think and make decisions on themselves. And I think that I have done a lot of mistakes on that as well, because a lot of times, because I haven't set the parameters of what kind of decisions the frontline can make. I don't want to know all the details that go in there, because I actually want you to make the decisions, because you're the specialist, you're closest to the action, you have the best information. If you're in the other room and you're calling me, hey, which guy should we shoot? I don't know. I'm not there.
Right.
I can tell you, shoot the one with the red head. But I don't know. You are there. You should be able to do it to make the decision. Now, don't get confused. I still take ownership of that. I can't decentralize ownership. I'm creating an environment where people can take ownership, But in the end of the day, as a leader, I am still responsible for everything. And eventually, how the ownership culture spreads is that through my example, people will start taking ownership of their problems. And we will eventually get to the overlapping ownership, where actually everyone is looking how they can move the needle forward from their perspective, how they can solve their own problems. And that's what we want. We want them to be the default aggressive, solving their own problems, but eventually collectively we are all solving each other's problems. And that's what actually takes us there. And that's why the decentralized command is so powerful, because everyone is working towards the same goal. They understand the intent. They are the specialists. They're the best guys to do that job. And they actually moving the needle in the right direction. And we don't have to speak a lot if we understand the intent correctly.
So this decentralized command, it all comes back to this basis of extreme ownership. Yes, we're telling the intent, we know where to go, but it's no good if everyone's still pointing fingers at each other. Decentralized command doesn't work. It's on the individuals to say, I know where we're going. I know what I need to do. I know what my team, so I will take responsibility for this action. This other person, we'll both take responsibility. What happens when two people take, well, it's great when two people take responsibility. They work it out because they're teammates, because they've built a relationship with each other, and the problem gets solved. One guy solves it, the other person solves it, doesn't matter. But when two people take responsibility, that's even better. Now then you're like, well, but one person wants to do it and the other one, that's not a humble situation. That's where egos start to come in. Clearly they haven't built a good relationship. If two people say, well, I'm doing this is my responsibility. I'm doing this, but I'm doing it because I'm extreme and I'm also doing it. Well, these people haven't built a relationship with one another. What we care is that the problem gets solved. Oh, you've got it and you're good? Good. Great. Go and I will leave that to you then. No problems. Mm-hmm. So we want to give our teammates responsibility. And I think as a leader, when companies say, so many companies say, we want our employees to take more responsibility. First of all, that discussion doesn't happen with employees. That discussion happens with management, with the leadership. Your employees or your team can only take the responsibility that you give to them. And by that I mean, you can't say to your team, take responsibility, be default aggressive, go and take actions, go and do something, because then first of all, the team doesn't understand their boundaries. Okay, but how much can I do? For example, how much can I spend? Really straight up example. Go and solve the problem, go and do that. Okay, am I 100? 200, 1,000 can I solve to solve this problem? And then the team also has to know that when they do get something wrong, you've got their back. That because I don't want to stick my neck out. I'm not going to take responsibility if I misstep and you chop me down, tell me I'm wrong, all this thing, I get reprimanded for it. I want to know my boundaries. And of course, if you can't always clearly define the boundaries. So the boundary is, I say you've got 500 and you can solve, you've got a sort of 500 limit to solve problems here.
And then it's 600 and you don't do anything. That's why you need to understand the intent. Like you have to make decisions which are not maybe very close to the borderline. But you have to know that your leader got your back or your teammate got your back. It doesn't matter who it is in the team environment. You have to create a feeling that everyone's got each other's back.
Yeah.
That's the most important part.
We had this, I was coming to that example because we had this exact in Combat Ready. We, like all companies, want to make sure that we're frugal, we're not wasting money, we want to grow, we want to build that money. So it's one part of what we're working internally right now to make sure we're not overspending on things, to make sure we're not, to just be tight, not anyway. And I was working with a colleague of ours and we're working on a new project, something that's going to be really cool in the classrooms. And it came down to how much is it going to cost. And I said, okay, this is going to be really cool. This is going to be a great thing for our students to have. We're in the class. How much is it going to cost? 100 euros. Okay. How many? That's for 100. Wait, €1 a student? We don't need to run this up the chain of command. But we just heard that we've got to cut. We've just heard from upper management just today that we've got to look at costs. Yes, true. I agree. But €1 per student. this is good for the outcome for this great thing we're going to have in class. If it was €5 per student, okay, well then I'd start to think a little bit closer about this. Okay, maybe 5, how good is it really, or something like that. But €1 per student, go, get after it. Like the intent, yes, we need to be tightened the belt a little bit, but the intent of making a great experience for our customers is still there. So
absolutely,
there's always that balance.
And you can make those decisions on yourself because nobody will. I don't know what's the worst case can happen.
Right, and that's what I was trying to impress to our colleague as well. That hey, even if it's wrong, fine, I'll take no problems.
Yeah.
Hey, it's $100. I'll pay it. If that's an extreme. I don't expect that to happen, but. If I think to myself, if I screwed up so badly, let's say this is a really wrong decision, and I'll just be like, I really thought it was, all right, I'll take the 100 hit. And I know that you would never ever come to me and go, Lewis, give me the $100 back. But I know that if I was willing to pay that, I'm willing to, make that decision.
And that's why on top of the 4 laws, and there are the mindset, and which is default aggressive. We're solving problems based on the intent. We want to be on offense. And that's why because the situation change, that's why the third kind of mindset is innovate and adapt. Because, if you understand the intent, we can actually innovate. We can actually adapt to the situation. If it's €5 there, €100 there, 1,000 there, whatever, 500,000 there, we can still figure it out because we have the realm of understanding what's going on. And if we understand the consequences, then we can actually make the decision. And if I don't, I can over communicate and I can ask, and if I have to, I can ask once. Next time I already know. I already can up my procedure, so I can take that initiative and make things happen because that's what we want. And if you now go slightly in the wrong direction, that's fine. At least you took ownership, and at least you took action. You were able to make down the decision, which is good, which is what we want. And actually, this is very good. If I can see that kind of attitude, regardless if you overspent a little bit, doesn't matter. And even if it's overspent a lot, it's clearly my mistake because I didn't communicate how much you can spend. Right. But you actually took initiative and made it happen, which is more important than that. So that's why I think that the mindset and the 4 laws, they work so well in combination. You can't have one without another. And that's very, very important about it. And the 4th mindset is the humility. Like that's the key because it's so easy to fall in love with yourself. It's so easy to fall in love with yourself because we love ourselves, and the ego that takes us there through the success, it crawls into your head and it makes a nest, and it starts to hatch the eggs that you have put in there, and those eggs are not very good usually. So you have to put your team first, and to see any changes in the environment, you have to be humble and open-minded, and you can't let your ego drive that decision making. So that's why the number one most important part about the leader is, or any person actually, is to be humble. Everyone has met an egotistic person who thinks about themselves, and it's not fun to be around with them. It's not fun at all. And even what I love even the most about it is that regardless of how big your ego is, you will get humbled by life. That's always the case. And I think that one of the best examples is Steve Jobs, which I lately are giving into in our courses as well. Like, he was a genius.
No doubt.
He was a genius, and he had a bit of an ego problem, right? He had a wrong attitude. Now, most of the people are not geniuses, but they think that they are. And then their ego goes over their head and they start to act like Steve Jobs. And that's the worst combination there is. You suck at what you do, but you have the biggest opinion about everything. And I love the straightforward messaging from Jocko is that just today I listened to the Underground podcast, and he had they had a saying in a SEAL team. It was something like, shut your pie hole, or keep your pie hole shut. Okay. Which means that don't just shut up.
Sure, shut your pie hole.
Shut your pie hole. Keep your opinion to yourself. Yeah. Choose the moments where you actually say something out loud. Think if this is really important for the team. And being silent is more than often the best way going forward, because it's very easy to look egotistic or not humble, But the easiest way how to look humble is just shut up.
In my work with Comedy Estonia, I've dealt with a lot of big artists, not just the biggest in Estonia, but big internationally. And it's like the Steve Jobs example. And Steve Jobs said it was all these startup frat boys took the wrong message away from Steve Jobs, that he didn't succeed because of that universe-size ego. He succeeded despite that universe-size ego. Ego is like, okay, you can have talent and ego. Talent is like the engine of the car. If you've got the more talent, the bigger engine, the faster, the further that car goes, right? But ego is like brakes. No, it's like the handbrake on the car. That the bigger the engine, the more you can overcome the resistance of the handbrake. I can get my big V8 and I'm going to overcome the handbrake. But if I just ease off on the handbrake a little bit, the engine can go so much further. Steve Jobs succeeded despite having the handbrake ripped all the way up and having those locked up. He just dragged that car along. So yes, if you are the huge talent, you have all of that, you can be a huge dick and people will still come to you, whatever, enjoy your work, whatever. But it's your massive talent that's propelling that. So do you have Steve Jobs style talent? The biggest V8 engine, maybe, but not that many people do. I bet you probably don't have as much. So maybe if you just back off on the ego a little bit, then you'll actually, I can go as far as Steve Jobs with a smaller motor because I have no resistance. Yep. I'm not saying me, but if I had less resistance.
Absolutely. And even he got fired from his own company. Uh-huh. So it's a great example how not to do things in that sense. Yes. Because I guess he could even get even further or even far because he lost a lot of time because of that. And the last mindset is the discipline equals freedom, right?
That's right.
And you just have to work. Just have to work hard and not give up ever. And everyone wants the freedom, but nobody wants to work for it. And if you want to have more freedom, you have to be smart, of course, but you have to do the right things every day, all the time. Every day starts from the zero. And that's the mentality what Jocko has and a lot of people around me have. And that's exactly what actually brings you the freedom. Like if you want to be free in terms of your money or resources, you have to use those resources in a disciplined way.
That's the simplest example. If you save a little bit every day, then you're going to have financial freedom later. If you don't spend all that money in your 20s, by your 30s, you're going to be set up a little bit, right? But if you spend it all then, that's the most clear-cut example of discipline. Now apply that idea instead to your work, to your efforts, to your personal life. If I put a little bit of effort in today and keep trying consistently every day, in a year, 2 years, I'm going to have all these really great relationships around me. But if I just piss them away now, I'm not going to have anything
you have to think strategically. Long-term thinking is what takes you to the long-term thinking takes you very far. Obviously, the tactical portion has to be in line with the strategic things. But if you want to be like saving money is strategic. Going to gym in the morning is strategic. Writing a book today is strategic because I need to get it out, 2 months from now. If I now push this forward, it eventually will become a tactical problem and the result will never be as good as you put it work in every day. And that's what life is all about. You have to earn it every day pretty much.
I think the way I think about this is the answer is simpler than you think. And the answer, you already know the answer. You already know what you should be doing. This podcast isn't here to tell you do this, do that, or something like that. You know, what are the good things I could do in my life? I could go to the gym. I could eat less crap. I could not drink as much booze on the weekend or no booze or something like that. You already know. There's no great insights, I think, into finding how to help yourself. For me, it's what's the insight of how do I improve my fitness? Go to the gym, don't eat as many cheese rolls. Like, I don't need another YouTube video to tell me what I need to do. It probably just has to remind me that I already know that.
Absolutely.
The answer,
Just
but
doing it.
we just do it. Just do it. It's just there. And that's the hardest part. That's the really difficult thing. The answer is right there in front of us. We know it already, but we don't do it.
Take action on that. Yes, I love which I remember today. There was a dude in my unit, and like if someone came to him with an issue or whatever, I don't know how to do this. This is impossible. Like I don't know, and the problem that was impossible to that person was like really not impossible, or was really possible. And he said like, okay, so you want to tell me that people have built a rocket and flew to the moon, and we are not able to come up with the solution for that. And that kind of thing, okay, all right, I will go back and figure out how to do this. Because people have done so many amazing things, and they have accomplished so many like ridiculous things. And now we think that we are not able to do this one thing. You should be just thinking stronger, dig deeper, figure out what could be the possible action that takes you there, and just do it. Just regroup, do it again. Regroup, do it again. And that's how you go. And I think in a really short period, I think we have covered all of those things. But I mean, Jocko talks about that in his podcast every day. So go listen up that. We have an online academy coming in.
Absolutely.
Where you can go and dig deeper on that. Buy the Jocko books, Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership, Leadership Tactics and Field Manual, and all of those places. They're a really good base for knowledge. If you want to learn more, like stick around, see what we talk about, look what Echelon Front is doing. And I think that I know these things work. It's just a simplistic way, like simple way how to figure out the framework that will get you going, and you will better off using it than not.
Right. I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate that. We're combat ready. You can contact us in the links below. Thank you very much for watching. Remo, thank you for joining me today.
Yep.
Thank you, brother. See you next time.
Heavy metal.